I have some peace knowing that my husband gave his life doing what he loved, and that was protecting this city.
Well, let's start with, first of all, how did you and Billy meet? Take me back.
Wow, almost 40 years ago. His aunt knew my aunt, and she had a newborn baby and said, I've got some nephews that you might be interested in. And I'm like, okay. She wanted me to babysit the baby. And I was like, okay, sure. I'd gone down to their house. They didn't live too far from us. We're originally from Baltimore, Maryland. And I went there, I met the baby, and I saw my brother-in-laws now, Jim and Matt, on video. Back in the day, the big, huge cameras and the whole 9 yards. And Billy, I saw his senior picture hanging on the wall in the house. And I'm like, well, he's pretty cute, whatever. And she's like, well, that's my nephew, Billy, and he actually just left to go into the Air Force. And I was like, okay, cool, and she's like, all right. And I was supposed to babysit for them on Friday. I went home. I was 15 and a half. And I went home and I told my mom, I said, hey, on Friday night, I got to babysit for the Randolphs. And she's like, oh, okay. And I said, oh, before I forget, I also found the guy I'm going to marry. And my mom laughed at me. And 3.5 years later, I married him. We started writing to each other because back in the 80s, 1985, 86, we didn't have computers and things. So I wrote him a letter in crayon and described myself, and he was here stationed in Wichita Falls. And I started writing to him, and we wrote to each other. And the first time that we actually saw each other in person was he was coming in for an anniversary party, and we were going to have a date. He picked me up at Burger King. I was in my Burger King uniform. He took me back to my house. I had forgotten my keys, and he had to shove me through the bottom window of our apartment so that I could get into the house to get changed for our date. And our first date was to, one, go see the movie Top Gun, but prior to that, he said, hey, one of my brothers is going to get into a fight up in the field. Would you like to go watch it with me? And I'm like, sure. So, and ever since then, we were inseparable, and that's how we met.
Wow. Personality. Tell me about Billy's personality.
Oh, bigger than life. He never met a stranger, ever. I don't care what city we were in, where we went. He always found someone that he knew. Forever in a day, the saying has always been, he could sell ice cubes to someone who lived in an igloo.
Wow.
He loved people. He was fair. He loved with everything that he could. And and he had a servant's heart. He was in the Air Force. And then, of course, and then he went to be in the police.
For women who are not married to police officers, what's it like being an officer's wife?
I think it's like anything else. I think the better terminology to put is, what's it like being married to a man with a servant's heart, or a woman with a servant's heart? Because as much as they love you and love their family, they love their community and they always want to give back. So it's very different. So I don't necessarily think it's a difference in being a police wife or a teacher's spouse or firefighter or anything else. If you have a servant's heart, a preacher's wife, you have a servant's heart, so you just want to serve and be there for others. And that's really what framed him up.
Do you remember the conversation between you and him when he decided he wanted to become a police officer after serving in the Air Force?
Yes, vividly.
Was that tough?
It was very tough because he had gotten out of the Air Force. We were in the time during Desert Storm. He was on call all the time. And he told me that he wanted to be a police officer. And I was like, I didn't marry a police officer. I married someone in the military, and now you're safe. And he was like, well, what if I just do the reserves? And I'm like, I could do that. Okay. Literally, he was supposed to start the reserve class the following Monday. On that Friday, he got a phone call. And they said, hey, we have a spot that just opened up in the full-time Fort Worth Police Academy. and we'd like to offer it to you. And he's like, well, I have to call my wife. And they said, you have about 30 minutes to let us know. And so I went from being, okay, you're going to be a reserve officer, to saying you're going to be a full-time police on Monday. So it was a struggle. It was different, but I always knew what made him happy. And being a police officer has been in that boy's heart forever and a day. And that's what he always wanted to do. So how can I stop or say, no, that's not what I wanted? And I used to joke with my ladies at church. They're like, you're so young. What are you going to do if something happens to him? I'm like, I have an electric blanket and I got 2 babies that look just like him. So I think I'm going to be okay, and God's going to watch us. So.
Yeah. Speaking of babies, I looked at your family photos that you brought, and I see this police officer. It looks like when he's with the grandkids, he's a teddy bear.
Always. But it wasn't just with his grandkids. It was with anybody at all. He just had a love for people. We used to go to the stockyards all the time, and where you go down by where the little railroad area is and they have all the shops, there's a candy shop in there. And he would go in and buy tons of candy, of course, give it to our grandchildren. But he would also stand out in front of it and offer candy to kids. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. 1, you're a man. 2, you're a police officer, and it looks a little strange. But he just loved children. We have so many adoptive children that have been in our lives that we consider them part of our family too. It's just what our dynamic was, and he just loved people.
Yeah. What was it like on family vacations?
Fun, somewhat argumentative because he's a procrastinator. So when we're all ready to go, he still would lag a little bit behind. But we've made so many memories over the years that we will all cherish forever.
Yeah.
And it was work is work, and that's gone. And now I'm here to be with family.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. When he takes off his uniform, did he stop being a police officer, or could you always tell that's a police officer?
He's always a police officer. I remember one time we were going to, I believe it was San Antonio for St. Patrick's Day weekend. We always went there for pub crawls. And there was an accident on the road down there on the main freeway. And he always had his best stuff with him. And we pull over, he's directing traffic because the accident had literally happened practically in front of us. So he's out there directing traffic. He put on his police thing to be able to help and keep the people safe until first responders could get there. So it never left him. Again, a servant's heart.
Yeah. When you two are together alone, as opposed to around the grandkids and the family, tell me about your special moments with him that you carry with you all the time.
I think a lot of it is just our time that we knew how to read each other. And we just loved spending time together. He was my couch potato. Mm-hmm. So, we would veg out and watch television and play with our dogs. It was just, we were there. Like we were puzzles of a piece that we fit together. Yeah. And we complimented each other. We argued. We laughed. We cried. It's just, he was my island. He was my person.
Did he have hobbies?
Yes.
Tell me about his hobbies.
Hunting. Even when I started dating him, he's always been an avid hunter. His family, since he was a little boy, they've always gone hunting, and he did that. Backtrack a little bit. When our kids were little, my husband wanted a motorcycle, and I said no. I said, you're not getting a motorcycle, you're a police officer, that's already dangerous enough, we're not adding a motorcycle into it. And I said, he's like, but babe, I really want a motorcycle, I really want it. I'm like, fine, look, you can get a motorcycle when the kids have graduated high school and they're out on their own. Once they do that, and our kids were like 9 and 12 at the time. Now, I could ask Billy to take the garbage out and he would forget. But I kid you not, 15 years later, he remembered that promise that I made in the garage that when our children graduated from high school, he could get a motorcycle. And he got that motorcycle and he absolutely loved it. That's how we started doing the Ride for the Fallen. He has a Harley now. We're passing that on to my son-in-law, and he's going to take up that torch too. But he loved riding his motorcycle.
You rode with them?
I did hesitantly. When he first got it, I did ride with him. Unfortunately, only God knows our stories. But when we lost our son, I had a very difficult time riding on the same motorcycle with him. So what we would do is, Jim, his brother, also rode, and he lived out here. I would ride on Jim's bike, and my best friend would ride on his. Okay. So that way I felt safe. If one bike went down, one of Kayla's parents are still here.
Okay.
So we always did that. But for slow rides or country rides, I did ride with him.
So from what I can gather, Lisa, you guys did a lot of negotiating with each other.
Yes.
What would you say to husbands and wives about just negotiating life?
That there's always a give and a take. Your marriages are hard. There's going to be good, bad, and indifference. And you have to be able to try to come to a middle ground. We always based our relationship on, we each had our own hobbies in lives, but we intertwined. We ebbed and flowed back and forth. We had our together time, our family time, our friend time. And just keeping communication open, especially being married to a police officer. Communication is key. Knowing when to give them their space. Knowing when they're ready to open up. Some people feel like, you're not sharing your life with me, what happened at work. They're doing it to protect you because of what they've seen.
Yeah. A lot of people I talked to about Billy told me, oh, he was my mentor. He taught me this. Did he take a lot of officers under his wings over the years?
He took everybody under his wing. It didn't matter whether you were police or you were someone that he arrested. I can't tell you the amount of people, specifically from the east side of Fort Worth, complete strangers to me, that either reached out and shared stories and thanked me and for my husband taking them under his wing and just being there for them because he was fair. On east side, they always called him nephew, and I never understood what that meant. I'm like, why did that guy just call you nephew? And on east side, it's a term of respect, and he earned that respect over there. And a lot of those people came to vigils, came and sent me cards up here, and I was given those cards, and they just said, thank you. Because of your husband, my son moved on and went to college, or because of your husband, we got on the straight path, or because of your husband, I did this. And those are amazing things. So it didn't matter whether you were family, PD, or a complete stranger. He just loved being able to help people stay on the right path and be a guiding light.
Yeah. Did he ever talk about retiring? Because I think the chief told me that he could have retired, but decided not to.
He did. He stayed on. Our goal was, in 2 years, he would have been retiring. And our goal was to move to a lake town in the area. And we were going to make our forever home there. So he loved going out on our boat and just enjoying the water with our grandkids and our family and friends. So our goal was 2 years, but.
Yeah. When people see his name on the memorial wall, what do you want the takeaway to be?
I always hope that no matter whose name is on that wall, that new officers, cadets, and established officers will always strive to have a legacy that's left behind and to be a police officer that loves their community. And that is what he did. He loved this community.
Yeah. I try to understand how people become police officers and make the sacrifice, knowing the dangers of the job. What would you say to people about Billy making that decision?
That's what he loved, besides his family. I would give my left arm to have him back. But I also know that my husband didn't want to pass from a heart attack or having Alzheimer's or a long-term illness. I have some peace knowing that my husband gave his life doing what he loved, and that was protecting this city all the way 30 minutes before he was supposed to be off.